bit was just the overwhelming support from my community. Like I really, really felt my little small town, and not even just my small town, all people from all over the place. Like someone that I had met 2 times are like, "We're watching you, like go get them." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like we are really doing it for Canada."
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Best You interview series. It's Gary here again, and thank you very much as always for taking the time to join me. And today I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Canadian Olympian and World Cup ski cross athlete Courtney Hoffos, who is here to talk about the business of being an Olympian and her preparation for the 2026 Olympic Winter Games in Italy coming up very, very quickly here. After a stellar junior career, Courtney got her first taste of World Cup competition in 2018 before joining the circuit full-time for the 2019-2020 season. And in her first season, Courtney medalled multiple times in World Cup races in Europe, and despite a season-ending broken wrist and AC shoulder separation, she was still awarded the FIS, which is a fancy way of saying the International Ski and Snowboard Federation Freestyle Rookie of the Year. Very, very impressive. Indeed, during the 2020-2021 season, Courtney never finished outside of the top 10 in any of her 10 World Cup starts, winning a bronze medal in the process. Courtney made her Olympic debut at Beijing 2022, placing 6th overall. And last season, Courtney earned a silver medal at the World Championships and recently opened her 2025-26 World Cup season with another silver medal, showing that she is absolutely a top contender for when the big prizes are handed out in Italy. And now, as we're recording, Courtney is in France, having just competed in and completed World Cup races and brought home that silver medal. As I say, I mean, it's just absolutely sage preparation for Milan, I have to say. Courtney brings a down-to-earth perspective on high-performance mindset and what it actually takes to compete at the top level, and we'll actually get into talking about that today. And besides performing on the snow, it's essential to also channel energy towards networking, negotiation, and building a brand to help succeed as an athlete in Canada. And that's the real gold dust of the conversation. Courtney and I met at the UFC, where Courtney attended my class on personal career strategies and attended pretty much from all over North America and Europe. There was different each week. I was like, I wonder where Courtney is this week. And there was times that she was in the gym, like on the bike. There was times that she was in a hotel room with kind of choppy Wi-Fi and things like that. And I'm delighted that Courtney recently wrapped up her business degree at the University of Calgary that focused on supply chain operations and entrepreneurship. And that was a lot to go in terms of balance. You know, many students have a job while they are studying. Maybe some have multiple jobs. Not many are Olympians and professional athletes as they are going through their work. So it's a lot of balancing with training, travel, and just the general chaos. Courtney, it's great to see you again. Thank you very, very much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's awesome. It's unfortunate that the Wi-Fi situation is still the same. I'm still in a hotel room with choppy Wi-Fi, but we made it. So yeah, I really appreciate you having me on here.
Oh, I'm delighted to have you on. So let's start with your career. I was doing a bit of research, and as I want to do prior to every interview, and yours is a wee bit different because there's a wee bit more information out there online about you. But let's start with your career journey, your athletic career journey that took you to the point of being an Olympian. And, you know, I know there was a change in sport as you were growing through, you know, your own athletic journey. You know, was it always the dream to be an Olympian? Did that just come as you started to realize you were good at it? Was there pressure from family, friends? Is it a family trait? How did that all come about?
Yeah, so I grew up in Windermere, BC. So I was 20 minutes, 30 minutes away from Panorama, which is an amazing mountain for ski racing. And so naturally, I just kept going with that. And I loved all sports. So I mean, it's a small town. That's what you kind of end up doing is sports just to keep busy. Um, and yeah, as I kind of continued down the path of skiing and skiing more competitively, naturally went into racing. And then I had a lot of injuries and some kind of different little setbacks. And I kind of started to lose the fire a little bit in my alpine career. I wasn't enjoying training as much. And, when I looked at the big picture, I was like, you know what? I'm not really having fun doing this every winter. And you have to dedicate everything to that sport at that time. Like in my life, it was right after high school. I took a gap year, and I kind of, my parents are supporting me a lot because I'm not working or getting any money from, the government at that point. So it was like very much a big toll on, my family as well as myself and my time. So once I started to lose a bit of that fire, I was like, okay, I gotta, pivot a little bit. Or, I was thinking about just going to university, kind of quitting skiing altogether. And then I tried a ski cross camp, and I had so much fun. It was like it brought all that competitive fire back, because I don't know if everyone's familiar with ski cross, but it's four skiers racing head to head at one time with jumps and bank turns and different features. And the top two make it to the next round, and you do several rounds throughout the day. So it really brought my like competitive fire back. And there was a much more direct path to a higher level. I think it was a lot of shallower pool than in alpine racing. And my like cohort of girls that I would be with in alpine were really good and really competitive. And when I switched over to ski cross, I was already like in the top. I still had a lot to finesse, that's for sure, but they saw a lot of potential in me. So I think that helped me, also see potential in myself and want to be an Olympian in that sport. I just had so much fun doing it too. So it's hard to not, want to just keep doing it. It's a cool way to live your life. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of these. I wonder. I wonder if there's like a social aspect to it. Like doing a lot of the alpine stuff. There's a couple of people at the top, and there's a bunch of people at the bottom, and then you're kind of on your own, and I guess you really. I mean, there's probably clocks on various parts down the actual terrain itself, but you're just on your own, and there is obviously an element. It's still an individual sport that you're doing, but then all of a sudden you've got this like literal real time gauge of how you're performing and
Oh,
how
totally.
well which
It's yeah.
is was that refreshing?
Oh yeah, like you're racing the clock in alpine. And I have this like funny memory of when I was doing slalom, and it's a pretty fast tempo. And this is alpine racing. And my coach, he's this Austrian guy going tech 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 tech, and I'm like cruising, and I'm in a race. And when I hear him do that, I'm like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. So like I'm like, oh God, I really need to like channel some urgency here. Like my sense of urgency is like out the window. So I think that really helped, from like racing the clock and you're on your own, like just pushing, versus this girl is right next to me and you want to beat her. Like you're
Yeah,
doing everything you
yeah.
can.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that you mentioned there was, no money from the government or something. That's my words, not your words.
Mhm.
But that was one of the key things that I was really fascinated about when you and I had some conversations prior to recording, and just thinking about the life. And I was thinking, it's the timing of our conversation is great, because I've been conversations with people a lot recently where there's a level of frustration in any industry that I'm having a conversation with. There's a level of frustration that people have, that people don't understand their job. So if you're working with another department, you're in an organization of some description, and people don't sing to your tune, or they don't understand your deadlines, or they don't understand the process, if they're late with this particular submission, that you can't do what you're doing. And it's not exclusive to any particular trade or any particular discipline or any particular organization. Nobody truly clearly knows what it takes to be insert any trade or any profession here, nobody knows what it takes to be a dentist. Nobody knows what it takes to be, a construction worker in any of the disciplines of construction. Nobody knows what it takes to be a singer, an entertainer, performer, anything. And it's the very same with athletes. And the reason I have a really keen interest in this, I like to watch documentaries when I'm on the tread, the Peloton tread. It's got this beautiful big screen, and I just put Netflix on and I watch a lot of sports documentaries, and I'm so fascinated about the industry of sports and the types and styles of characters that are there, but literally how the industry is structured. And I watched one recently, Courtney, and it was actually from quite some time ago, and I think it was Michael Phelps that did this documentary, Something for Gold, forgive me, I can't remember the title, and he was basically talking about the elite of the elite are indeed that for a reason, and they are supported in a particular way by the American Olympic organization. I don't know the name of it. And the rest of them, they interviewed probably about half a dozen athletes, and they didn't have a great experience. They didn't have a time when they felt super supported, that they felt that there were people out there that were genuinely looking out for their best interests. You mentioned some injuries that you had earlier in your career, and I know that was a bit of a theme in some of the earlier stages of your professional career as well.
Mm-hmm.
As you're going through, I mentioned the season-ending injury, but you still got Athlete of the Year and such, or Rookie of the Year, and it's one of those things. What does that structure actually look like? You get yourself to a plateau where you're on a list somewhere, you're suddenly visible to the organization. How does it, obviously not, divulging any trade secrets or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but how do you, when you get to that elite level, how does the funding come? How do you actually support yourself as an athlete?
Yeah, it's a great question because I mean, there's a little bit of elusiveness to it in general, but from my experience, once you get onto a national team or a development team, which is still part of the national team, but it's not like full World Cup usually, you get a thing called karting money, and it's basically supposed to cover your essential living expenses. So when I first joined the team, I got the development card, and it's like just over $1,000 a month, which, like, really at
Oh,
the end of the day, is not covering your essential needs. Like,
yeah,
people that are actually living on that is like, it would just be really, it would kind of be impossible if you're not getting support from other places. So it forces you
yeah,
to either be creative, get sponsors, or have support from family, which a lot of us are living with family longer than the average 28-year-old, or
yeah,
doing other kind of creative ways. So now, like, because I'm a senior like national member, um, the karting gets higher, and you get some funding from the Canadian Olympic Committee, or there's grants you can apply for. So there is some funding within the government that can cover your basic living expenses, I want to say, because it isn't enough. And it's tough because at the end of the day, our team is getting this funding, but we have to pay a team fee that could be, when I first started with the team, it was 10,000 or 15,000 just to be on the team. So you've made the top tier, you're on the highest level you can be, and you're still paying to be there. So for a lot
yeah,
of people, yeah, it's crazy. Like, I know on the Alpine side, it's even more. People are paying 30 grand to just be the best. And if you can't make that money, or you can't get sponsors, or um, cover that, then you can't compete. Like, you got to pay to
yeah,
play, and it seems skewed, and a lot of people are against that. But it's
yeah,
just tough when, if we don't have enough corporate sponsors covering our entire federation, um, we have to pay as some sort of team fee to inject kind of
yeah.
some funds.
Yeah, and it's not as if where you're saying, right, okay, I'm going to do a financial model here, and I need an extra, I'll just use a number,
Hmm.
$50,000 this year to be able to compete for the entire season. I'll just go and get a job that's going to pay me $50,000, because you still need to be training and doing, I'm assuming that training and competing is not all that you have to do as an international athlete representing Canada. There'll be other tasks and duties. Maybe you could tell us about that. But so then you mentioned sponsors and such. Is that a thing where it becomes every woman or every athlete for themselves, where you have to get creative? Is there a pool where you maybe get access to go and try and woo them in some way? How does that work? It seems, if someone's growing up, my fear here for future generations of athletes is that they're just not prepared to be able to compete on the business side. They have the skills and talent to be able to be considered as an athlete, that's someone that could go on and do some great things on behalf of themselves and their club and their country. But if you're not savvy about how to get sponsorship, about the grant process and system for doing that, and if you're generally weaker on the admin side, you're at a double disadvantage then. Like, what does that process look like in terms of gaining that extra sourcing and funding?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think with my business degree, I really started to see the overlap and be like, oh my God, I can use this to help me and leverage my relationships in the sponsorship and professional world. Because yeah, when I was just starting, I kind of always had in my head oh, once I make the national team, then I'll get a head sponsor. And then once I was on the national team, I go, oh, well, once I'm on the doing World Cups, then someone will be my head sponsor. Oh, and then I'm on World Cup and people aren't knocking on your door saying, let me give you $15,000. You have to go out there and hustle and get it. So I go, oh yeah, once I get a medal, that's when you get kind of head sponsors. Or once you're an Olympian, it just goes on, and that's not the reality of it. You need to build a brand for yourself and get out there and ask. The worst thing people can say is no, and you have to take a lot of them, cold email, do whatever you can do. I have no shame anymore just asking people, because at the end of the day, people do want to support the journey, and especially ski racing. I think there's a lot of people that are really passionate about ski racing and in the ski racing world, and they know the realities of it, and it's an expensive sport.
Yeah.
And would hate for financial reasons to get in the way of something that you love doing in this aspect. The ski racing career is definitely not infinite, so you got to take it while you can get it, and hopefully you can pay for it. So yeah, it's definitely not the easiest landscape to navigate, because it is for sure everyone for themselves. We have some
Yeah.
team sponsors, but we're not seeing that money. It's all
Mhm.
going towards, travel and physios and, lane space, stuff that we're never seeing. So when our actual head sponsors, and we have some shoulder patches that's just fully on us, we need to go out and try to get it. So it's it's definitely a little bit tougher. There's some networking events where you can kind of meet some people that are in that world, but yeah, overall it's not easy.
Yeah, and those are learned skills. I mean, I know many people, and I've been a victim of this myself, where I'm kind of I feel awkward reaching out,
Mhm.
and then what typically would happen, what I see happening with a lot of clients and students and such, is that you end up minimizing your impact, you're minimizing your contribution. This is, right, okay, if I'm going to give you $15,000 for the head sponsor that you mentioned, what am I going to get? And then you kind of start to minimize the value that they're going to get from that. Well, I might be on the TV if they're going to be recording this particular one. If I get a medal, you'll get to see your sponsorship on the podium and things like that. That doesn't seem like a good $15,000 investment. So then you're having to create, as you mentioned, your brand, but then a marketing campaign. You need to know and understand the value that people are going to be able to get. Hopefully, there are some metrics that have been predetermined from exposure to audiences and, the ability to be able to say this is the amount of people that are watching it. But I was going to ask, so you mentioned the head sponsor and some shoulders. What is for sale, if I could say that
Of
in
course.
inverted commas?
Yeah, I mean, Obviously it's the logo placement front and center. But yeah, I mean, it's on international TV, it's
Mhm.
on media, and going into the Olympics, of course, we have a lot more media and exposure in general. There's
Yeah,
just more excitement around the sport. But personally, I try to give back as much as I can to the company, like in terms of value. So whether it's a ski day with clients or with the
yeah,
office, or attending some event as a person of interest. And even if the like most of the companies that I would align myself with, they have great values, and they do all this extracurricular events and charity work. And even just me showing up to a charity event that they're already doing, as a face, I'm
yeah,
happy to do anything pretty much. So whether it's showing up in the office and giving a speech about teamwork, like
yeah,
it's kind of endless. And I try to cater it to the company specifically. And some they really like Instagram. Some people really like Facebook. Some are all over LinkedIn. And I
yeah,
think LinkedIn is definitely the kind of the dark horse here, because that is where everyone, all professional people are, scrolling, right? So
yeah,
yeah, I think when you can find the similarities between high performance sport and performing in the office, and
yeah,
teamwork and culture, and like that's all things that we're talking about all the time. And I think there is a lot of like, yeah, just ways that that can translate back and forth. So it's
yeah,
really cool, I think, to get in an office and talk to people and hopefully inspire or motivate. That's, I think, at the end of the day, you're trying to make a workplace culture. And even if it's the whole workplace rooting for somebody that they wouldn't necessarily care about, but now that
yeah,
they know, oh, they have my company name on their head, like, let's go, Courtney. Like, it just kind
yeah,
of brings people together at the same time too.
yeah. Is there such a thing as too many? Like, are you restricted in some way where you say, for example, I already have the head and the shoulders done. I can't. There's no more real estate that I can do that. I can present you for, but I can still do that. Like, is it tiered? How does it work? I'm trying to make sure that the listeners and the viewers know and understand how they can support if some of the kind of the more key or showpiece sponsorship packages are gone.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the headgear, you get one on the front and then one on the side, or like both sides. And that's kind
Right.
of like the top tier, because they're obviously getting exposure while we're actually racing. And
Yeah.
then the shoulder patches are on our all of our outerwear. Um,
Right.
and I mean, there's not really a limit at the end of the day. Like, I can only have logos or two logos on my head, two logos on my jacket, but I can always work with the company to do stuff if they don't want even their exposure or their, like, brand front and center. Like all of the examples I just said, I can do that without having their logo on my head. Like, there's always a way to collaborate, I think. And I do that a lot with companies on like Instagram or something, whether it's, a little reel or a little post for some gifted stuff, or it's a lot
Yeah.
of it's in kind, or even just to support. And because I mean, I'm not doing anything for any brands that I don't also like respect and
Yeah.
wouldn't use authentically. So
Yeah.
um most of the time, if I'm getting, if it's chips and salsa, I'm like, I love these chips and salsa for real. Like, I'm literally just doing this because they send me some chips and salsa. Like, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it goes to it's not always monetary. It's kind
Yeah.
of all over the place, but there definitely is some tears for sure.
Yeah. And I love that you said that there has to be an affinity with the brand. So it's not just out there collecting
Hmm.
randomness from anywhere in a desperate effort to try to continue to financially support what it is you're going to do. My concern would be if you're spending a lot of time doing that, chasing prospects, wooing clients, trying to close the deal, there's a finite time, as you mentioned earlier. It's a wee bit more. it's a wee bit easier possibly to get a door or two opened when it gets to Olympic season, because everyone's kind of like, oh yeah, since that 4 years since the last one, I should really pay attention to this. This is quite fun. And then, obviously being an Olympian yourself adds gravitas to the conversation. The challenge being that's time that you're not spending in the gym, reviewing previous races, looking at strategy, resting, recovering, like training and things like that. How do you find a balance? Do you find a balance in what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, all summer is pretty much like grinding in the gym. Like we're doing 2 sessions a day. We're eating crazy amounts. Like we're taking care of our bodies the best we can all summertime. And so it's kind of nice to have actually, that thing on the side to just, write some emails or getting back to people, creating relationships. I quite actually enjoy that part of it. I think it's challenging for sure, but um I think if I was just always like ski cross, ski cross, ski cross, like watching like old races, it would be draining, honestly. Like I get home from the
Yeah,
gym and I'm like, I can't, I don't want to think about that. So it's kind of fun to meet new people and talk and network a little bit. So, and that's why I actually really enjoyed taking some classes at the same
yeah,
time. And there was times where it was very challenging, and
yeah,
everything aligned poorly. But sometimes I think it was like it kept my brain away from the sport side of things a little bit, and I kind of needed that balance. Honestly, it was really helpful, and it's been a bit different this year because it's my first year or first winter, I guess, since I've completed my university degree. So I have kind of been
yeah,
finding, I've just been emailing more, trying to do different stuff like with other people and brands. And I don't know, it was a little bit shocking opening my email today after 4 days of racing. I was like, oh, I need to catch up a little bit on things. So, yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely tough. It's hard to find a balance and it's easy to just push it to the side. But I do think that it's helpful to have a little bit of something else on the go at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that actually, because you're so right. You need a brain break from something to almost flush out some things that aren't serving you and create space for things that are serving you, because those can be some sort of epiphany or reflection moment where you're kind of thinking something will just come to you as you're writing an email where you're saying, I made a mess of that. Like, I actually think I know why. I wonder if I should go back and watch the video. And then it becomes this energizing
Yeah.
situation just because you've taken yourself out of that area and put yourself into concentrating a different type and style of energy and speed and process and such as you're moving forward. So, in terms of, you mentioned the brand a couple of times as well. What would you say is the brand of Courtney, the Olympian, the entrepreneur, as you're moving forward, as it is today?
Yeah, I know it's a tough question because I feel like I think everyone is always trying to kind of find that.
Yeah,
And each year I kind of go, oh, like this is kind of my niche or this is my niche. And then I'm all over the place. Like it's tough online too when you see people doing certain things and you enjoy that, or I enjoy seeing that and I kind of want to replicate it in my own way. And then all of a sudden my feed is just like all over the place. I'm doing, a little bit of everything. So I think
yeah,
personally I just try to be as kind of down to earth as possible and like real, and I want to enjoy what I'm doing all the time. So if I can kind of give some of the realities of, we get to spend a week in France and then a week in Switzerland and then a week in Italy, and we're traveling through the mountains and the Alps, all these beautiful places, and staying at these fancy hotels where people are coming to, hang out for the weekend, and we're like in our rooms trying to recover in the machines and go to the gym. Like we're not taking advantage of all of like the fancy aspects of it and the spas. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I try to be in the spa as much as I can, but there's only so much sauna you can do before a race. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, just kind of, I think just enjoying what I'm doing and not taking anything too seriously. Because at the end of the day,
yeah,
that's why I'm here, because I want to be here. And at the moment I don't want to, I'm not enjoying it and seeing the big picture, then I'm kind of done.
yeah. I really, really appreciate you saying that. That's something that I say any opportunity I get, mostly in class for the undergraduates, but even when I'm doing continuous or uh, continuing education work to more adult learners, is, like, you are where you are, and if you don't just breathe for 5 seconds and just have a wee look around, possibly take a photograph or a video or capture a thought on your phone or a voice note, whatever it is, you're going to miss so much, because at some point you're going to look back and think, I don't actually even literally remember being there.
Yeah,
In this incredible, resort somewhere in Austria or France or Italy or such, like you mentioned, and just enjoy being where you are. And it's more of a, for me, it's more of a, as people are growing through the ranks, they're just so desperate and focused on the next level that they're not truly embracing or enjoying the level that they're at
totally.
right now.
Hmm.
Where I'm,
It,
I'm not supposed to be the best at this yet. I'm not supposed to know this stuff. I'm not, this is where the mistakes will happen, and I'll get an opportunity to learn and grow from those mistakes and move forward. In terms of your performance journey, Courtney, how do you what's your reflective practice to know, or give yourself the best opportunity to know that you're performing at the highest level you possibly can each and every day?
I mean, I think a lot of it is just about purpose for me and like setting an intention and knowing why I'm doing something. Like that's huge for me. And I can actually remember um, when you were my professor. I guess, yeah. Um, you had some, pivots in your career, and I mean,
Yeah,
you're here now doing this kind of thing
yeah,
because you found that in yourself and it's just something you enjoy. Like, I think everything
yeah,
should be super engaging in what you're doing. And like when you start skiing and training and you don't really know why you're doing a certain thing, or you're in the gym and I'm doing these power cleans that I hate doing, and I'm going, why am I even doing this? And then once someone tells me, they go, oh well, this hip movement and the coordination is great for a start gate, and then I go, oh okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like I just think I really need that, like the purpose and understanding about why I'm doing something, and that has been huge. And reflecting on that again, also, like, especially through a lot of rehabs that I've done, um, the exercises are brutal. Like, it's just like super
yeah,
mundane, like just boring, boring, boring. So when I can be like, okay, I'm doing this for, and I think it also probably just maturity and understanding it a lot more as I get a bit older and going through it more times.
yeah.
I understand why I'm doing certain things, and it really makes a huge difference because everything feels like a win once you get it, versus like
Yes.
you're unlocking the next level, you don't even know you're unlocking it, whereas you're like, this is my goal, I'm doing this because of this. Unlocked, boom, it's exciting, it's fun, it's motivating. So the little wins, I think, are huge, and reflecting on those as much as possible.
Yeah. Celebrating as much as you
Hmm.
can through the journey. Yeah.
Yeah, drink more
Yeah.
champagne. I think that was like the New Year's resolution one of my teammates had. Drink more
Yeah.
champagne because you can celebrate more. Always.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
And
You can take that both ways, of course.
yeah.
Maybe just forget the athletic career and just drink more champagne. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that if that's your
We got
jam.
loads of things to
Of
celebrate.
Yeah, exactly. So, the pinnacle of any athlete's career, I guess, depending on the sport they choose, would be the Olympic Games. The opportunity to say, I am an Olympian. I am, I have competed at the highest level. I've seen the experience. I've benefited, gained from it, and I've contributed to my country's excitement. And such. You were fortunate to do that in Beijing, and you are looking forward to doing that in Italy. What does it feel like to be an Olympian? When you finally became an Olympian, what changed for Courtney?
Yeah, it was pretty surreal. I think the main thing that I noticed and that changed a little bit was just the overwhelming support from my community. Like I really, really felt my little small town, and not even just my small town, all people from all over the place, like someone that I had met 2 times are like, we're watching you, like go get them. I'm like, oh my gosh, like we are really doing it for Canada. And
Yeah,
then that was like a very, very special moment for me. I think even just competing there, I was just happy to be there. My goal was just to make it, It's
Yeah.
really competitive within our team to make the Olympics. There's 6 or 7 girls vying for 4 spots, and all of these girls have a World Cup podium. It's
Yeah.
like, it's really tough just to make it there. So I think
Mhm.
just being there in my fresh Lululemon kit, I was like,
Yeah.
this is sick. I was just taking it all in as much as I could, and hanging out with my friends that were there, and people from other sports and other countries. And yeah, it was just a really, really special experience to feel the small town. And I mean, it's been a goal for probably ever since I was a little girl, watching skiers or watching soccer players. I was always
Yeah.
like, I want to be a professional athlete, Olympian,
Mhm.
anything. Like, I didn't even know what sport. That's where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like just a really surreal moment. And then having that little OLY next to your name definitely opens up
Yeah.
some extra opportunities afterward. So I think being able to actually use that platform once, as an Olympian, and
Yeah.
speak from, you kind of get, it's like you did kind of unlock a level, and you kind of have a little bit of validity next to your name. Like, you can do this and also
Yeah.
be an Olympian, or like, you can start out here and make it here. Like, if you just believe and do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, it definitely was pretty cool to unlock that. And now I'm looking to really compete and hopefully take home some hardware.
Yeah, that, I mean, an Olympic medalist sounds
Yeah,
like
even
a
better.
echelon above Olympian and such. When you were in Beijing, and you mentioned hanging out with other people from other sports and things, and the ability to be able just to kind of meld into the community, if you like, of athletes that were there. Did you intentionally use that as an opportunity in Beijing to see how the elite of the elite, the medalists, the favourites, the kind of internationally renowned athletes that are there, and observe them, and just, I'm not saying follow them around, be a groupie
Yeah.
or anything like that, but that, like, were you able to absorb some of the, that's how they do that. That's, they don't get involved in that. They seem to spend their time there. They don't waste too much time doing that. Were there opportunities to do that, or were they kind of fleeting?
I mean, a little bit. I think already our team, like Canada Ski Cross, is pretty much elite of the elite. We've taken home the like Nations Cup of the World Cup circuit for like the
Yeah,
last 5 years, I think, in a row. So I kind of see
yeah,
that in my everyday life, looking up to some of my teammates and how they
yeah,
operate. And it's kind of molded me into how I operate. But it was very interesting to see other sports and how they do it, because every sport is so different in their preparation. You see the cross country skiers that are warming up for 10K for their 10K race. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you have to go do a 10K with sprints before you go race 10K? Like, I'm like swinging my leg and like jumping a few times. Like, it is so different. And like, you see the freestyle athletes, which was really cool to be in the same village as them, because they definitely have like a little more clout, I want to say, or just, a bigger platform. They're definitely like
yeah,
very cool. So cool people,
yeah,
and it's really fun to follow them on Instagram. They're doing neat tricks, and they're just like a lot more just a lot more following around them in general. So I was fangirling a little bit for some
yeah,
for some of it. But yeah, they definitely operate fully different than our sport too. And people are competing at night, or they're competing in the morning.
yeah,
So I definitely learned a lot about other sports and other athletes. And I went, oh my gosh, thank God I do my sport and not cross country. Because whoa,
yeah,
that's sounds hard. I'm glad I'm in a gravity sport.
yeah. Yeah, well, gravity takes care of a lot of it, of course.
Exactly.
And when, like, after your Olympic experience in Beijing, was there anything afterwards that you kind of thought, I didn't take advantage of this, or with the benefit of hindsight, I wish I had invested a bit more time in this, or, and I'm thinking back to the business part, were there opportunities there for networking that you kind of missed, or you just didn't know about because it was your first time, or anything like that you could take in to Italy and say, I'm going to be more purposeful and intentional in this area. I'm going to pull back on that and invest more in that? Anything from a learning perspective?
I mean, always, I think there's little things that, you could always do differently, but we had the COVID Olympics. So everything was a little bit weird, I would say. Everyone who'd been to the Olympics before were like, "Oh, you guys don't even know." Like, and I thought it was unreal. But,
Yeah,
it's obviously just a little bit different, and the landscape of everybody was a little bit different because there wasn't as much mingling and networking with anyone outside of the village. Or actually, not there was zero. When you were in
right.
your bubble, you were in like around Olympians and workers, and then when you're at the venue, you're around your sport people and like volunteers. Like there was no
Yeah.
other people, and there wasn't really opportunities like that. Whereas I think
Mhm.
Milan and Cortina Livigno is where my village will be,
Right.
is pretty different. Like there's going to be loads of people and a lot more opportunities for that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
definitely looking forward to it. I think just a big thing would be posting more and giving people a bit more of an inside look, because that's the exciting part. That's what people want to see. Whereas in Beijing, you can't really shout out like your sponsors and any brands or companies, because there's just rules around what you can
Yeah.
post during the Olympic period because of the Canadian Olympic Committee and everything they
Mhm.
do. So it totally makes sense. But leading into the next one, you have to be careful with, some of those rules. But for sure, I think there'll be a lot more opportunities to meet people and network and, um, interviews. You can say whatever you want pretty much in an interview still. So there's
Yeah.
lots of those, lots of media.
Yeah, yeah, and that's another side to the business as well. Of course, is your ability to handle the media. Does the Canadian Olympic Committee do they provide training on media training? Is that something you have to do on your own? Is that something you just gravitate to or learn as you go?
Yeah, I would say it is kind of you learn as you go, but there are some resources through, not necessarily the COC, but the Canadian Sport Institute is partnered with a thing called Game Plan, and
Okay,
they do a lot of just any kind of like business help for athletes. And they try to be as supportive as possible, and they listen to us also. I think it's evolved over the years. It used to be much more for athletes who were finished competing, trying to get into the professional world. They have no degree, they have no work
right.
experience, and they're like, what do I do? So
Yeah,
now it's evolved much more to like just help current athletes or athletes that are retired, but
yeah,
um just navigate the professional world a lot differently, and learn how to negotiate with a brand, learn how to meet people and network. Like that's why I found your class actually so interesting, because I was like, I'm using this stuff. Like this is gonna come in handy for me. Like I know that, it's not a job interview, but it feels like it. You're
yeah.
spilling out and you can always change your narrative too, right? Like
Of
with
course.
the media training stuff, we actually did something earlier with our media guy at Alpine Canada, because they do some stuff with us, some media training. And he goes, you can answer however you want. If they ask you something that you don't like, don't answer it. Just say whatever you want to say. Like at the end of the
Yeah,
day, the camera's on you, and you can choose your own narrative. You can't say, well, I didn't like the question they asked. I didn't really get to say this. Just say what you
yeah,
want. So
yeah,
it's it's interesting, and it's hard to learn that, because I think initially
yeah,
you're intimidated by the camera, and you don't want to sound bad, or you don't want to like sound way off the norm. You're kind of just
yeah,
trying to blend in, and then you realize you're like, blending in is kind of boring. Like it's no one
yeah.
wants to hear, yeah, I had a great day, I'm so proud, hee hee ha ha. Like tell us how you feel for real. Like
Yeah. No, exactly that. And blending in isn't memorable either, so
totally.
from a branding perspective, you're going to remember someone who, and even the intrigue is what hooks a lot of people from a media perspective. If someone comes and says, you know what, I'm really pissed off and I'm fed up that she keeps doing that and nobody's doing anything about it, and it's time something happened, and then walking away, and then the whole world just suddenly goes, whoa, what was that?
Yeah, everyone's
So
watching
then
that
then
interview.
you've got Exactly, because then they're trying to figure out, is there a rivalry there? What does this look like, and such like that, and then, but it's that insight into, because ultimately, and I mentioned this many times in class, even if you're not a competitive person, you're competing. You're competing right now with your peer group, and you folks are going to enter the workplace for the most part roughly at the same time. And many people are targeting finance, people are targeting
Hmm.
HR, people are targeting, whatever it looks like in terms of their career choices. And then you're going to be, there's a reason that they call it in North America a competition when a job posting goes up, because you're competing with other people, and you need to be able to go in. And the one thing you don't do in a job interview is tell them why everyone else is rubbish and why they should hire you. But you're really, it's that one opportunity for shameless self-promotion to say, I'm going to tell you why I'm the best candidate, the best fit for this, and I'm hoping that you resonate with what I'm saying, to give you that opportunity to know you're in safe hands if you pick Courtney on this particular occasion, and kind of moving forward from there. So I loved it when we had some chats back and forward where you were saying a lot of the mindset work that I was talking about, a lot of the preparatory work, a lot of the making sure that you have what you need and you're being kind to yourself as you go forward, was analogous with a lot of the training and such that you have from a sporting perspective, because it is agnostic. It's life.
Totally.
If you want
Yeah.
to get better at something, then you need to hire someone that can help you get better. Then you need to actually do the work,
Yeah.
and then you need to figure out whether it's working for you or not. So Courtney, as you know, this is called the best you, as I mentioned on the intro. What is one regular practice that Courtney employs to give yourself the best opportunity to be the best version of yourself?
So when I was thinking about my regular practices, I don't have a lot of routine. I'm all over the map. My life is like actually pretty chaotic.
Right,
And I'm fine with that. I think I live in the the chaos quite well, but I always try to circle back to these three C's, and you kind of touched on them earlier, and it's confidence, calm, and compassion. So
right,
kind of like what you were saying, you to be able to spill out your why you're the best, why this, that, you have to believe it, and that's all confidence. And I think confidence is a superpower for everyone, whether it's real or not. But if you do
yeah,
believe it, then you're going to show people why you can do what you can do, and then you're going to rise to that anyways. So I
yeah,
think that's huge in any aspect of life, right? So that, staying cool, just chill, I think this is more on the performance side of things. And then
yeah,
compassion, same, like being kind to yourself and and that builds confidence too, because you're like, it's okay, we can do better next time, or we can work on this, and you're holding yourself accountable. So I
yeah,
think just doing some reflection, I really think reflection is great, whether it's even just at bed again, or sorry, in my bed at night, just thinking, like, just doing a quick little like debrief of the day, and like, what was something that I'm like proud of the day, what's something maybe I want to work on, and what's my intention for tomorrow, or doing that in the morning, what's my intention for the day. And it all kind of comes back to reflecting, and I try to always fit in those three C's, um, to,
yeah.
yeah, just motor on, and be the person that everyone would describe you as in the room. Like, I feel like that's a huge thing. So yeah, show up as your best self, and try to at least, yeah, be that explanation that you want.
Yeah, yeah. And the compassion stuff is so, so important, especially in sport. I keep talking to my son Leo, who I talked about many times during the class, where he's got a passion. He was snowboarding for a while. He's kind of changed it a wee bit to golf. Where I think he likes the individual part of it. I think he's got a group that he likes. He enjoys it. Back to the enjoyment part of it.
Hmm.
But some days he'll come home and he'll be like, what happened? Yesterday I was hitting it really well, and today it was like I've never competed. I've never actually swung a golf club in my entire
Yeah.
life. And I said, that's sport, man. That's if everybody found the magic sauce and human beings weren't involved, then you would have the same repeatable results time after time after time, and that would be kind of bland. Tiger Woods would have won 50 majors instead of
Yeah,
15, and we would have, all the elite athletes would have just been, just exactly that. They would have just been winning everything. That's what makes it so fascinating, because you can do absolutely everything you need to do and then put everything in place, and then on the day, for whatever reason, the stars don't align and it's just not your best. Or the other way, something sparks within you, and then you have this greatest ever performance that ends up, elevating you to something that you maybe didn't even believe yourself that you could do.
totally.
That's the beauty. But then having that compassion to say, I did what I could. I did all the things right, and it just wasn't my day. Because anytime I've seen players, for football team, my football team is Glasgow Rangers, that I love, and they come out afterwards and they're like, it just kind of wasn't our day. They're a wee bit more savvy about it, but essentially saying, some you win, some you lose. And I'm like, no, that's not good enough. You should have. And then I catch myself and say, it doesn't work like that. There are so many moving parts. So that
Totally.
compassion, not an ability to just go, these things happen. You're going to learn from it, but that ability to say, this is a human experience we're having here, and this is part of the experience, and moving on. I love that you said compassion. Okay, so before I let you go, where can people find out more about you, Courtney?
I mean, they can follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn. I have a website that I try to update as much as possible. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a pretty avid poster on Instagram, I would say. Hopefully
Yeah.
I'll make you laugh.
Yeah. So I'm not a big Instagrammer. Every now and again I open it up and then I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I just close it back down. But this morning, here's a funny story, just one last one about Leo. He comes downstairs every time he's eating his breakfast, he's got his phone there, he's scrolling and such, and I'm like, right, okay, so your lunch is there, and what's going to happen, and you fully prepared for your test, and he's just his grunt. And this morning I said, oh, listen, I'm going to go do my run a wee bit earlier because I have an interview today with an Olympian. And he literally raised his head, and that's a rare thing. And he's like, "What?" I says, "Yeah, I'm gonna be." She was in the class, and she's very kindly agreed to come on the podcast. What kind of Olympian? And I said, "What, ski cross stuff?" She's going to. I said Milan. She's going to Milan for the Winter Olympics coming up here in a few weeks. And then he's suddenly absolutely interested. So today, when he gets home today, I'm gonna make sure that he follows you, and then he will
Perfect.
give me the running commentary of what that looks like. And then he'll be on the weekend, he'll be like, my dad just interviewed this lassie. Oh, and he won't say lassie, but
Yeah.
my dad interviewed this lassie on his podcast and stuff. And then so hopefully there'll be some more stuff, and he'll keep me posted on that. Courtney, absolutely brilliant to see you again. Thank you very much for everything that you're doing for the Canadian sporting landscape. All the very best of luck. It seems like such a minimalist thing to say, but I'm wishing you every single bit of success that comes your way in the Olympic Winter Games coming up here, and I look forward to seeing how it goes and reconnecting with you afterwards.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on here, and I definitely use a ton of your little things moving forward. So yeah, you definitely had an impact.
That's wonderful to hear.